Hi, this is drawing lesson number 1 for a series of drawing lessons about realistic drawing. It's for beginners to learn how to draw. So if you want to learn how to draw realistically, you can follow along with me. In this first lesson, I'm going to be showing how to hold a pencil for sketching, drawing ellipses, and shading on an egg. So these are some foundational things about drawing. And I've got a real egg right here as an example of what we're drawing today. But to make it easier for you to see both my paper and the egg at the same time, then I have printed out a photograph that I took so that we can look at it together. So I'm going to put my egg away, and the picture of the egg will be over here. I use different numbers of pencils, but you can use any pencil that you have at home to do these drawings. So if you've ever seen these special drawing pencils before, they have numbers on them on the end. 4H, 4B, there's a 2H, HB, B, and a 6B. These are different hardnesses of lead. The ones that are H, and the higher the number of the H, the harder the pencil is. And then with the B's, it goes the other way. The higher number of the B, the softer the pencil is. So let me show you the difference. So this is a 4H, and when I draw with it, just lightly, it has a little bit. And then here's the 6B. If I draw lightly with it, not pressing down very hard, but you can see the difference in the harder pencil and the softer pencil. But you don't need these ones. You don't need this set to create the drawings that I'm going to do. You could just use a regular pencil and press more or press less with your pencil in order to create the drawings. I like to use these because it just makes it a little bit easier to do the drawings. Okay, so let's start off with what we're going to be learning. And the first thing to learn is how to hold your pencil for sketching. So a lot of times when we hold a pencil for writing, right, we hold it like this. It's like kind of up and down, and we can use like little tiny movements to make our writing with, because we want to write small so we can fit a lot on a page. But when we're sketching, actually, to start off, you hold it a different way. It's like this. If you have your pencil, I'm left-handed, so it might show up the other way too. Okay, so I can do it with both hands. Okay, if you have the pencil for sketching to start off with, it's like you're pinching the pencil up to hold it. So it's underneath your hand. So I go down and it's like I pinch and I hold the pencil so that it's under my hand. It's under my hand. So I pinch it and it's under my hand. And then it feels a little bit awkward at first. You're like, what is this? This is weird. But don't worry, you kind of get used to it. And the point of holding the pencil this way is because now you can swing your arm a little bit more, and instead of like little tiny jagged lines, you're like, I can't make it straight, right? Like, I can't make it straight, it's not going straight. But then like if I hold it this way, oh, now my whole arm is moving, and it's much easier to get a straight line. So that's your first tip about how to hold a pencil. So I'm going to do a little practice here. It's a good idea if you do this practice for how to hold a pencil and how to sketch with it. Just play around with it a bit. So I'm going to pinch up my pencil, and I'm going to try first just swinging my arm left and right. Don't worry about if it looks like anything. I'm just moving my arm left and right across the paper. Okay, I'm going to try moving my arm up and down. This time I'm making a hash mark on here. Okay, don't worry about what it looks like. Notice how it's so much easier to get a straight line if you hold your pencil this way, the pinch way, and then you move your whole arm as part of the process. Okay, I could go diagonal. Try some different directions on your paper to see how it feels. Okay, if it feels weird at first, don't worry. You get used to it. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is much easier to make a straight line. I'm just using regular printer paper for this. And I'm going to flip it over now. And what we're specifically going to be learning about today is ellipses and shading on an egg. So I'm first going to practice some ellipses. So I've got my pencil. Why don't we do it with both hands just for fun? I will do it with both hands, but you just do it with the hand that works for you. This way you can see it at both. Okay. So I'm going to make an ellipse, which is like a circle or an oval. To make the ellipse, I'm holding it the sketch way, pinching it up, and then I swing my arm around like I'm going to make a circle. Okay, if it's this hand, go the other way, right? So the way that it feels natural to you, like you're stirring. But now I'm going to touch it down to the paper. And don't worry about if it looks like a perfect circle. Just give it a try. And I'm using two different pencils. That's why one is lighter and one is darker. Here, I'll use some darker pencils. But I'm going to go again. And then go ahead and do this on your own paper. And it doesn't all have to follow that same line either. Practice some ellipses here. I'll practice a little bit more while you're working on it. Okay, so we've done a bit of practice, and now we are ready to make a drawing of an egg. I need a new piece of paper, which is here. Okay, now I'm going to be drawing it with my left hand, but you're going to draw with whatever hand works for you. Okay, so I want to have, to start off, I'm like, oh, look it, this is handy. My egg is an ellipse shape. So we're going to start by creating an ellipse shape. So I have my pencil, it's pinched in my hand. And now I want to decide, okay, I want it about here. I swing my arm around and then touch it down to the paper. Don't worry if it's all kind of with extra lines and things in there. As long as you get kind of a shape there because you swing your arm around, you get it. Okay, and if you want to use an eraser to clean up some of the extra lines, you can. I'm going to wait until the end because sometimes these lines just get covered up as you continue to work. Right, now I'm going to notice the shading on here. When I took the photo, I lit it with a lamp on the side so that I would have one side lighter and one side darker. So I have a light side, I have a shadow side. I've got some reflected light here. So sometimes you get light that comes down and then it reflects back onto an object, especially if the object is kind of shiny. This isn't super shiny, right? But then the table or the paper shines that light back up from the sun onto the opposite side just a bit, but it's not going to be as light as this side. And I have my cast shadow. So just for basics, we'll think, okay, I've got light and shadow. I'm still holding my pencil like this, the pinch way, because I just want to keep it loose and think about, okay, where is my shading? I'm looking and I see that the shading is down there. If it helps, you can draw an area first for your light and your shadow. So I could go like this, like, oh, well, it's not exactly there, but this is about where my light area is, and this is about where my shadow area is. So I could start darkening it. It's easier to use the side of your pencil when you're shading. And I'm not pressing down too hard at first because that will give me a chance to add more shading later. Okay, now it looks like I've got a hard edge between the light area and the dark area, right? And sometimes we get tempted to just keep darkening right along that edge. But I don't want to do that. See how this shadow goes just a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker. I'm going to remove that edge so that it doesn't tempt me to keep working right at that edge. Instead, I just move down a little bit. So I was here shading, and then I move in a little bit, and I just press a little bit more. I'm using the side of my pencil. Okay, so to avoid that hard edge, I don't go right up to it. I just go in a little bit more. Aha, it's starting to look more round. Okay, I've got too much light down here. That's the area where I have the light shining up, but it's like, oh no, that's too light. Let's add a bit more. Okay, now look and see where the darkest area is on the egg. Notice how right in through here, it's still darker than what I've got. So I'm going to continue to darken. And especially right here, I can see how there's the light and the dark. My eye is picking up on the dark area of the egg next to the light area of the background. Okay, so I keep darkening the dark area here. Now this light area looks rather big. So I'm going to just lightly use my pencil on the side, just very lightly, and add a bit more shading coming up into the light area. See, I'm keeping the really light area rounded. Up here, I'm working around, like I'm getting closer in. And now I'm adding some more dark up here on the left side. And then some more of that really dark area. I didn't have enough yet. Just work at it slowly, looking for where the dark and the light areas are. All right, there's one more thing to add on here, which is the shadow. So notice how my shadow also looks like an ellipse. So it can be helpful to, once again, swing my arm around and think, okay, if I was going to make this shadow, see how it comes like across about the middle of the egg and then it comes out like that. So if I'm swinging my arm around, it's like I'm going through the middle of the egg and then I touch down. But I want to be careful to do that really lightly so that I don't leave a big mark here that I have to erase. Okay, now the shadow is a bit darker than that egg. So I'm making sure to darken that edge to let me know. It's like, aha, that's where the egg ends and where my shadow starts. And it's going to be a darker shadow. So I can press a bit harder with my pencil. The edge of the shadow is kind of fuzzy, so I don't have to make that outline super hard. I can just darken in the shadow on here. Okay, and I can clean up the edges a little bit if I want to. Like if I have that extra piece right there. Oops. Gotta be careful if I brush across the dark areas, it will smear. Okay, finished.